Howdy there once again, YouTube. I am Ben Ferraiuolo. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please click the bell if you wish to be notified about new videos. I guess the ringing the bell is a new thing? When did they put that in? Because shouldn't everybody be notified about all videos to the people they're subscribed to? I don't know, that's very weird. So just click the bell if you're already a subscriber. And please let me know in the comments section below if you know when they put that bell ringing thing in. This is the first monthly volcano report. I will also be doing yearly reports as well. Remember, I am not a professional, and some of what I say in my videos could be personal theory. I say again and again, test and research everything. But usually you can kind of tell the difference between my personal theory and actual fact. The earthquake counts I state are taken directly from the United States Geological Survey and their partners, and are only earthquakes reported, not earthquakes recorded. In regards to earthquake counts, it is likely, the majority of the time, that the reported earthquake number for a given location and time period, especially during a swarm, is lower than the actual count of earthquakes, sometimes drastically lower. This has to do with a multitude of factors including inability to locate, lack of instruments, and other reasons, to be honest, make no sense to me. It is my goal to eventually major in seismology and also study volcanology so I can become a volcanic seismologist. But I do believe I am somewhat properly equipped to give you guys a heads up if anything concerning may occur at volcanoes throughout the United States. The volcanoes I will be doing monthly and yearly updates on will be Yellowstone Caldera in Wyoming, Long Valley Caldera Supervolcano in California, Newberry Caldera, possibly supervolcano in Oregon, Mount Rainier, Mount St Helens, Mount Hood, Mount Shasta, and Lassen Peak. Glacier Peak, the volcano I live the closest to, has no monitoring instruments, and actually when it does erupt next could send lahars right to my house, and it only has one faulty seismograph, and that's it. USGS, or the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, is putting new instruments up there soon, hopefully, and Glacier Peak will be added to the updates once monitor installation has been completed. I really hope they put in 5 GPS monitors and 10 seismograph stations. In this video and other updates, we will look at earthquake and deformation counts. The time period of the earthquake counts for this video is from 0 UTC, July 1st, 2018, to right now, August 15th, 2018 at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time, which is 1930 UTC. Remember, UTC is a few hours ahead of the time zones here in the United States. And remember, magnitudes are always going to be negative 0.5 and above. Yes, earthquakes can occur at negative magnitudes, but require sensitive seismographs or a lot of seismographs in a dense network to locate. I like to call these negative earthquakes micro-minis. There is more than 1 month's worth of earthquakes here. That is because this is the first update. Every month's update will be uploaded a few days after the month in question has ended. As always, why don't we start with Yelly? And here we are at Yellowstone. There have been 213 reported earthquake events since July 1st, 2018. A minor swarm here and there. Remember, also on July 5th, there was a swarm that occurred right here, and I talked about that in my last video. Please go check that out. But it seems not too much has happened since July 5th. Probably a good 4 or 5 earthquakes a day. However, Montana just recently felt a magnitude 3.7 and subsequent aftershock, and the surrounding area outside of Yellowstone National Park has been seeing some good activity, though nothing too major. At least yet. The largest earthquake reported within this time period occurred on August 7th, 2018. At 10:19 UTC, and it was a magnitude 2.5 at 14.7 kilometers in depth, and it occurred right here on the outskirts of the caldera. The caldera imprint is right about here, and the magma chamber is right about here. And of course, there's also another 2.5 on July 5th at 1:09:30 UTC at 11.1 kilometers in depth, and I talked about that in the last video. So please go check that out. And here's the GPS information, the GPS deformation information, for the northern tip of Yellowstone Lake. Here is the vertical uplift subsidence. Subsidence is currently occurring, as you can see right here. But that could, of course, change in the blink of an eye. Interesting to note, the stations seeing the most dramatic changes in the uplift subsidence sequence are, since 2013, are the stations that are sitting directly atop the magma reservoir. And it seems these charts started in 2005, or actually it seems 2004. And here's the GPS deformation chart for the Upper Geyser Basin, near where Old Faithful resides. Same pattern here as well. Here's the vertical deformation. The top two charts are usually horizontal deformation. This is east-west, this is north-south, this is up-down. This one's vertical subsidence. The one to keep your eye on the most. And here are the deformation charts for WLWY, which resides just a few miles northeast of LKWY at Yellowstone Lake. Again, this chart is uplift subsidence, or in other words, vertical. Subsidence still seems to be occurring, though. If this follows previous patterns, I would not be surprised if we see a new influx of magma deep beneath the shallow magma reservoir. In other words, it is thought the uplift subsidence episodes recently seen at Yellowstone over the past few decades indicate increased or decreased magma flow into the bottom reservoir. I'm not talking about the top chamber, I'm talking about the magma rising deep from the mantle plume. Yellowstone seems to gain its magma stores from deep within the earth. And it seems the Old Faithful area is heading slowly east-ish and south. So about southeast, and subsidence is still occurring, but if it follows the same pattern, it could spike again. And here we are at Long Valley Caldera. Let's see, let me put on... Whoa, let me do the terrain. There we go. Long Valley Caldera. There seems to have been a swarm that broke out at Long Valley Supervolcano in California right after the activity in Kilauea calmed down. Not saying it's connected, but that's what happened. There have been a staggering 1,104 reported earthquakes since July 1st, 2018 at Long Valley Caldera, with the largest event being a magnitude 3.0 occurring at 5.8 kilometers in depth on July 27th, 2018 at 5:49 UTC. Now in a second I will show you the deformation charts, but I want you to notice something. The caldera rim is right about here. Notice how the majority of the earthquakes are occurring about on the southern edge of Long Valley Caldera. You see that? Well, you'll understand what I'm talking about just in a minute. These earthquakes are occurring on the deformation front. The vertical, I think it's southwest, which means there is active uplift going on right now at Long Valley Caldera, and it looks like the earthquakes are occurring on the deformation front. And here is Long Valley Volcanic Center, with most of the earthquakes occurring in this area down here, and you'll see why in a second. Let's go to P639, GPS chart. Alright. Here we have the deformation charts for Long Valley Caldera. Looking at the vertical chart, which is this one right here, it seems uplift has been almost constant since this graph started in September 2013. It is likely that this will continue and more swarms will most likely break out at any time. A large magma intrusion event actually occurred at Long Valley in the late 90s. The constant uplift is obviously being caused by increased magma supply to the main reservoir. This, of course, will eventually lead to an eruption, most likely a super eruption, if it does not subside. Uplift has not been too extreme, but is enough to warrant close attention over the next few years if it does not stop. So let's say the bottom point, so in September 2013, it was negative 0.03 meters. Right now, it's at about 0.03 meters. So the uplift hasn't been too extreme, but it is definitely occurring. And notice real quick, this is east-west, this is north-south. Notice how these both are going down, which means this is going west, this is going south. So we have vertical, or in other words, uplift. We have southwest-oriented uplift. Now, where are the earthquakes occurring? On about the southwest portion of Long Valley Caldera, right on the deformation front. So here is P639, let's go to CA99. Here's the deformation chart for CA99, which resides just southwest of the instrument I just previously showed. Now this is what you have to watch out for. Notice how with the P639 deformation chart I showed first for Long Valley starts in September 2013. Well, let's go back to CA99 real quick. Well, this chart goes all the way back to 2001. Remember, the smaller the time frame, the more detail you will see, and vice versa. For example, if this chart started in 2013, you would see more detail compared to if it started in 2001 like it does here. And that doesn't just go for seismograph, guys, that goes for uplift charts too. If you keep the size of a chart the same, but increase the time frame of the data shown, it will show less and less detail. It looks like uplift is consistent here as well. Appears to have started around late 2011, took a quick dip at the start of 2013, and has been rising ever since. The magma chamber currently houses enough magma to produce a super eruption if it decided to erupt today. The amount of magma melt at Long Valley seems to be at a higher percentage than at Yellowstone. Long Valley Caldera and Yellowstone Caldera seem to be the most dangerous volcanoes in the United States, if not the world. Oh yeah, speaking of Long Valley, a new study put out suggests Long Valley does contain enough magma to cause a super eruption. Of course, no one knows when that may be, and they say, hey, don't worry, it won't happen for another millennia, which I doubt. If uplift is going on and earthquakes are going on and we got lots of deformation and lots of meltdown there, it's coming, guys. But with large previous swarms and continued uplift, it is definitely not a stretch to say Long Valley is approaching a very major eruption. More than possibly before Yellowstone decides to erupt next. Oh yeah, speaking of Yellowstone, sadly, the same cannot be said for another California caldera, the Yellowstone supervolcano, which is packed with 2,400 cubic miles of magma. It could be decades or even centuries before, or even if this supervolcano erupts, so Californians can chill for now. What? Did they really just say Yellowstone is in California? What? A simple 10-second search on Google would have told you otherwise. Gizmodo, Yellowstone is in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Nowhere near California. Is Gizmodo even reliable? This is the first time I've used this website, so if you have history with Gizmodo, please let me know, because I don't understand how they could even think Yellowstone is in California. Here we are back at the Long Valley Volcanic Center. We just showed P639. And CA99 GPS deformation. Let's go to RDOM, which is just north of the two instruments I just showed. Uplift continues here as well. This started again in September 2013. Multiple instruments confirm it is likely vertical southwest. Notice how this is going down and kind of down here as well, just like the other graphs we see. So it is likely vertical southwest deformation will continue just like the rest of the caldera. Of course, that could change, but if increased deformation continues and large earthquake swarms occur on the deformation front, kind of like what we've been seeing, which would be the south-southwest edge of Long Valley, it is a good idea to monitor the situation extremely closely. You know you can count on me, guys. I'm monitoring this place as well. I just recently found the data center capable of sending me data for Long Valley, since it does not reside within the official IRIS DMC coverage. Long Valley is a very potentially hazardous supervolcano. The last eruption, called Bishop Tuff, supposedly they say 760,000 years ago, was considered to be a super eruption. Not saying that will happen again this year, but the whole area, even outside the perimeter of Long Valley Caldera, is very volcanic. You would be extremely surprised. The world, and especially the United States, is way more volcanic than people would even dare to admit, and this supervolcano does seem to be closer to an eruption than Yellowstone is. You know, the professionals say not to worry, and to be honest, being a worrywart is overrated. And there is a difference between genuine panic and genuine worry. I would hate to see people panic, but worrying about something is not that bad if you deal with it the right way. However, with the amount of molten rock at such a shallow depth with large seismicity and deformation, it starts to paint a pretty drastic picture. Mount St Helens erupted 0.29. Let me say that again, 0.29. Cubic miles of ash. That's less than 1 cubic miles of ash. And even rained ash on Denver, Colorado, while the ash plumes circled the world. If 0.2 cubic miles, or 0.29 cubic miles can do that, what can 140 cubic miles, or even 240 cubic miles do? Trust me, don't think about it. Just monitor and protect your family and be prepared. God does not give us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. What happens, happens, and there's nothing we can do to stop the power of volcanoes, even when we think we can. They are a very powerful force, and most likely the most powerful force on the face of the earth. Here are the earthquakes that have been reported for the Newberry Caldera area, which is just south of Bend, Oregon. Only 3 earthquakes have been reported, and most likely no more than that have occurred, since I monitor this place daily as well. Newberry resides just right in smack dab in the middle of Oregon, pretty much. Just south of Bend, Oregon, which is actually right here. You know, I do monitor this place daily as well, of course, with JAMA Size and Swarm seismic software. The largest event occurred on July 9th, 2018 at 19:22:58 UTC. And it was a magnitude 2.1 explosion just northwest of the caldera. I have not seen any quarries in this area, so please let me know if you have any info about this event. Something else interesting was actually this small earthquake right here. We see an earthquake actually within the caldera, which is very shallow, negative 0.5 kilometers in depth, but it was only a 0.2. And then this other one, The only two earthquakes are very shallow at negative 1.9 kilometers in depth, which is very shallow. And it was a magnitude 0.6. Obviously, there's no quarries blasting on top of the volcano itself, so it must have been a few shallow microquake events. Now let's take a look at the GPS deformation charts for Newberry Caldera. Alright, this is a new type of GPS chart. The yellow line is vertical, in other words, uplift subsidence. Blue is east-west, and green is north-south. Uplift has been virtually negligible, except for a spike between 2014 and 2015. Speaking of this spike, let's go down here and go to the one just north. We are here at the station Norm, N-O-R-M. Just northwest, about a mile or so, of the previous instrument I just showed. The only change we can see obviously occurred at the same time, 2014, 2015. And occurred at the same time as the spike and uplift we saw in the previous graph. However, this time it is showing a spike in subsidence and says it dipped to 10,000 meters below ground. That cannot be possible, since that would be about 32,000 feet. In other words, the height that an international flight flies at. Yeah, must be a mistake, otherwise the graph I showed previously would have showed the same dip. However, it is interesting this mistake occurred right when the other station saw an interesting spike in uplift. Very odd, though. However, recently uplift subsidence has remained at normal levels, and same goes for seismicity at Newberry. Not much to see here, folks, but that could change at any moment. By the way, if you want to learn about Newberry Caldera, I'll leave a link in the description box below, and go check out the publications. It is fascinating. It's actually a really cool caldera, multiple different type of volcanic features. Got two calderas. I think there's a pumice cone in the middle, and then this large lava flow. It was a very sluggish lava flow, though, but it looked very thick. Now on to one of the most infamous Pacific Northwest volcano, Mount Rainier, which adds a beautiful but potentially deadly backdrop to the Seattle skyline. Personally, I see Mount Rainier probably once or twice a day. Just up the road from me, I have a perfect view of Mount Rainier. It just sticks out like a sore thumb. I have got some good views here if Mount Rainier ever decides to erupt. There have been 37 earthquakes since July 1st, 2018 at Mount Rainier, with the largest occurring on July 18th, 2018 at 1754-18 UTC at 12.5 kilometers in depth. It seems that this was just northwest of the base of Mount Rainier, and it is at a pretty good depth too. It does seem half of the seismicity has occurred under the stratovolcano itself, and the other half at the base, off to the west. No major earthquakes or swarms as of recently, and seismicity remains somewhat low. Sadly, at Mount Rainier, they really need to add some new instruments, guys. There are only 2 deformation recorders, actually they're called GPS instruments, at Mount Rainier capable of monitoring the volcano for potential eruptions. They are both on the eastern slope of Rainier, about halfway between the base and the summit. The first one here, MUIR, is south of the other one I will show in a second. Again, when seeing this type of GPS deformation chart, yellow is vertical, uplift subsidence, blue is east-west, and green is north-south deformation. It seems uplift and subsidence has been virtually negligible, with overall subsidence barely occurring. However, if a bulge were to form on the western slope of Mount Rainier, much like Mount St Helens prior to 1980, obviously we'd see it with our eyes, somewhat, but these instruments wouldn't give us too much info. Hopefully new monitors are added soon. It seems from about November 2012 to January 2013, this monitor had a significant change in direction, about 0.12 meters within a very short period of time towards the northeast. Now let's click out and let's go to the other one that is on Mount Rainier, CSHR. Gee, wow, what a complete disappointment! This monitor, CSHR, the only other GPS station actually on Mount Rainier's slope, has been discontinued since about December 2014. God knows why. Please join me in support of adding 3 new GPS stations and 1 new seismic data station for Mount Rainier. I obviously don't have the money to, but if enough people start bugging USGS or Pacific Northwest Seismic Network about it, like with Glacier Peak, they might do it. You never know, because I doubt there are many other stations up here recording deformation. Does the USGS actually do physical observation for bulges or other concerns at Mount Rainier? I sure hope so. Here we are at the volcano that gave my mother a very bad day on May 18, 1980, Mount St Helens. This volcano pummeled my mother's house with inches of ash, and even rained ash on my dad's car in Denver, Colorado. The main Mount St. Helens eruption ejected 0.29 cubic miles of ash, compared to the possible 140 cubic miles Long Valley will eject during its next eruption. When will that be? Who knows? So there have been 62 earthquakes at Mount St. Helens since July 1st, 2018. The majority of these events took place beneath the summit, with a small bunch located about 5 miles northeast of the base, with a few stragglers around the area. The largest reported event that occurred since July 1st, 2018 at Mount St. Helens was a magnitude 1.1 at 9.9 kilometers in depth, and it occurred on July 9th, 2018 at 17:45:28 UTC, and it's way far away from the base. I'm going to say a good 3 to 5 miles from the base of Mount St. Helens. And it was at a good depth too, 9.9 kilometers, that's pretty deep. So we're going to look at the GPS deformation charts for Mount St. Helens, and sadly there are no GPS instruments available to the public for the actual dome itself within the St. Helens crater. So I picked P697, which I feel is the closest to the dome, but resides on the southeast rim of the summit. Again, yellow is vertical, blue is east-west, and green is north-south. It currently seems to be moving northwest slightly, with uplift spikes being seen almost at the beginning of each year, it seems. No signs of renewed substantial dome growth, and it appears that St. Helens is still within background levels. Except 62 earthquakes is actually a good amount of earthquakes, but they're very tiny, some of them at a micro-minis. Remember I call them micro-minis, the negative magnitude earthquakes? However, as with any volcano, that could change very quickly. Magma likes to be very independent and for sure has a mind of its own. The Kilauea East Rift Zone eruptions in Hawaii prove that to us beyond a shadow of a doubt. And here we are at the Mount Hood volcano in northern Oregon, which straddles the border between Washington and Oregon. There have only been 4 earthquakes reported, with only one occurring beneath the volcano itself, and a few occurring at the base, just due south. The largest of this event was a magnitude 1.6 at 5.7 kilometers in depth, just at the base of Mount Hood. It occurred on August 4, 2018 at 15:38:17 UTC. Seismicity seems to remain at low levels, very, very low levels, though once again, just like every other volcano, that could change in the blink of an eye. Sadly, once again, it seems GPS deformation monitoring at this volcano is not as great as it should be. Only 2 GPS instruments, and they reside at the southern base. It seems instrument P791 is useless since it stopped working in the summer of 2016. So that leaves us with only one other GPS deformation instrument available, MHTL. So let's go check it out real quick. Even though this station resides just west of the station I just showed on the southern base of Mount Hood, it still can give us some good data, since it still seems to be in working condition. It seems deformation is basically negligible, with 2 spikes in subsidence, which is also called deflation, after the start of 2010, and after the start of this year, 2018. Since this chart began in 2007, the ground has been slightly, very slightly moving northeast, at a very slow rate. Deformation and seismicity at Mount Hood remains at low levels, at least for now. And here is Mount Shasta, which resides just south of the California-Oregon border. Also, if you have ever driven from southern Oregon into California using Interstate 5, you already know the volcano is quite large, and you get very close to it. There were only 2 earthquakes reported since July 1st, 2018 to right now, August 15th, 2018 at 1:31 p.m. Pacific Time. The largest magnitude was a 1.1 earthquake. It seems about 5 miles from the base of Mount Shasta. It occurred at 3.9 kilometers in depth on August 13, 2018 at 5:47 UTC. The only other earthquake, a 0.7, occurred very shallow and most likely within the cone itself. Once again, there are no GPS instruments available to the public on the actual summit itself for Mount Shasta. There is, however, multiple GPS instruments around the base that, quite possibly, could detect new influx of magma within a deeper region. However, shallow deformation at the summit, a sign an eruption could be approaching, most likely would not be seen, except through visual observations. However, just like most of the stratovolcano, seismicity would almost certainly increase prior to an eruption. Let's do P657 real quick. It seems deformation and seismicity at Mount Shasta all remain at low levels. It almost looks like it's breathing. Deformation hasn't been too extreme, but it seems Mount Shasta wants to move more northeast-ish. You see that? It looks like there's more northeast movement than any other movement. And between September 2015 and March 2016, that's where we saw the highest spike in deformation for uplift subsidence. And here we are at the last volcano in the update, Lassen Peak. Again, Glacier Peak in Washington State will be added to the update once new instruments are installed, but here's Lassen Peak, a volcano in Northern California just 60 miles southeast of Mount Shasta. Since July 1st, only 5 earthquakes have been reported, the largest being 2 magnitude 1.0s, one on July 7, 2018, and the other on July 18, 2018. The most recent one was 14.1 kilometers in depth, and the other one was 3.2 kilometers in depth. Prior to July, Lassen Peak did see somewhat of a swarm, with multiple earthquakes occurring above 2.0 within about a week's time frame. Seismicity has returned to normal levels since then. I believe last time Lassen Peak erupted was in the early 1900s, I think it was. If anybody knows the exact date down there, I mean, obviously I could do a quick search, but I don't have time to do that right now. Just let me know what you think below. Here we are, a GPS instrument. Where to go? P666. Trust me, I would have picked a better name for this one. On a more serious note, it seems Lassen Peak is well set with GPS instruments, though it seems those instruments go out once in a while. Remember, if any of you want to do the same simple thing that I am doing, all you have to do is go to volcanoes.usgs.gov and select the volcano you want to monitor. I must tell you though, if you want to monitor seismographs and understand the cause of certain events and differentiate between surface events and actual underground seismic events, I suggest that you watch part 1 and part 2 of my most recent 2-part video called Amateur Seismology Basics, Misconceptions and Tools. Go to my channel, click videos, and look for the 2-part video. So it seems P666 is showing multiple spikes of southeast uplift. You see that? This is east-west, this is north-south, this is up-down, uplift subsidence right here. So that is that the ground moved upwards in a southeastern direction. You can tell these spikes coincide perfectly with one another, showing 4 distinct events, with each 4 events moving the same direction as the last. Vertical southeast movement with what seems to be each deformation event being larger than the last. The 4 deformation events at Lassen Peak moving vertical southeast occurred about April 2014, January 2015, March 2016, and February-March 2017. It seems it was moving in a pattern, but skipped 2018 for some reason. Of course, we would keep monthly tabs on these areas I just talked about, and I would not be surprised if southeast uplift at Lassen Peak occurred around December 2018 this year to about March 2019. If so, be wary of swarms occurring on the deformation front, occurring at Lassen Peak from the summit to beyond the base, from about south-southeast. Man, can you believe the year 2020 is almost here? You know, when I was a kid, I thought we'd all be flying in cars right about now. Or that humans would be able to fly by themselves right about now. And here we are back at the wonderful Upper Geyser Basin, home to the infamous Old Faithful Geyser, which is right here. And if you ever see this mound right here steaming or smoking, that is called Split Cone Geyser. And it is rumored, not for sure, but it is rumored and thought to be connected to the Old Faithful system, deep underground. Well, it seems Yellowstone and Long Valley volcanoes have the highest seismicity counts out of all the volcanoes I showed from July 1st, 2018, 0 UTC, to right now, August 15th, 2018, at 2045 UTC. Not a big shock there. Of course, concerning activity at any of these volcanoes will warrant its own video, especially if increased deformation and gas output is spotted in conjunction with increased seismicity, almost a sure sign a magma chamber is growing restless for an approaching eruption. But really, gas isn't that important, guys. Gas is probably one of the least important. I mean, they're all important, yes, but I mainly focus on deformation and seismicity. So this is the first monthly volcano update I have put out. The next monthly update will be for the month of August, which is this month right now, which will be uploaded a few days after August has ended. Please visit my recent videos in my channel, which include recent updates. The homepage seems to not work much, I don't know why, so just go into my channel and press videos. Please see part 1 and part 2 of Amateur Seismology Basics, Misconceptions, and Tools. I hope to someday become more educated in regards to volcanoes and earthquakes, and hope to become a volcanic seismologist. Any support would be amazing. And no, I'm not talking about monetary support. I don't want your money. I'm talking about personal support from acquaintances. Thank you all, and keep your heads up, and please be prepared with, at the very least, 3 days of food and water per person within your household. Please double that per child you have under the age of 12, just in case. If any mistakes have occurred, or I'm wrong about something, please feel free to let me know. I am a chill guy that actually likes constructive criticism. What about that? Sadly, the world, and especially YouTube, has too big of an ego right now to think constructive criticism and learning is even a good thing. Well, how would we ever get smarter and ever reach more people with the truth? I will always stand for the truth no matter where it leads. Why? Because the truth is hate or fear to those who hate or fear the truth. God bless. Ben Ferraiuolo signing off. See you next time.